I think many of you, like me, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, turned to WHP to hear the smiling voice of Ken Matthews. He's been a presence there now, what is it, about a year?
2 years, 2 months.
Well, you know better than that.
But you were close.
There you go.
I'm cashing the checks, you're not.
There you go. One of the things I appreciate about Ken is the civility in his program. I don't hear many put downs. He's always willing. He's courteous. He's seeking the truth. And I don't say that carelessly. I mean, he's really interested in what is true. And not necessarily in promoting it, but where does the truth lie? And it's refreshing. And his positive attitude is refreshing. That's why he's so popular. But I'm going to give you a little background about Ken. This is mainly from his pen, so you can see his writing. He has a passion for, and listen to this, people, politics, pop culture, pistols, pianos. And if you think that he's not somebody who likes alliteration, you'd be mistaken. Anyway, he's been on radio now for about 35 years. He's born from New Jersey. Well, we're sorry to hear that, but at least you did escape.
I did escape.
You did escape. And he moved to Florida, where he was raised in sand and salt water. There you go. He's a graduate of North Carolina State University, where he got a degree in political science, which makes sense considering his interest in politics. So that follows. But he didn't get his broadcasting degree finished because he was too busy broadcasting. Maybe you got a little bit better training that way, right? There you go. Anyway, he met his wife of 25 years now in Maine, and several states later, and now they're in Pennsylvania. And they've been here since 1991, and as he says, they've got a 90-year mortgage. So they've got 2 sons, ages 10 and 13, and I hear you make quite a few references to the boys on the show.
Yeah, 11 and 14, I need to update that.
That's right. You know, editorial dereliction.
Yep.
Anyway, and his note about his sons is they will not stop eating. Many of you have teenage boys, you understand. Anyway, Ken's a lifetime member of the National Rifle Association. He's a pistol instructor, and you can talk which brands and calibers he prefers after he's done here. I'm sure he'll be able to do that in great detail. And he's a big fan, quote unquote, of the U.S. Constitution. Not a bad thing, all things considered. Anyway, it's your turn now, Ken.
All righty, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. This is this device I used on Apollo 17. And God, I was so nervous that day too because I threw up in the capsule, but they let me keep this microphone, so don't be frightened by it. It's seen a lot of wear. Let me go over some rules here. Thank you for that nice introduction, Laszlo. I appreciate it. And thank you all for being here as well. I'm going to take my glasses off a minute because they're just for reading. It looks like a little bigger crowd than last year, is it? Slightly? Okay. Thanks for your positive spin on that. I appreciate it. Yeah, there's one more person. Let me go over the rules. I am always excited to take part in this because I talk about a lot of things on the radio, as you know. I have a great audience. You guys are the best audience, the most responsive, the most articulate, the most informed. It's true. And there's something very rewarding about interacting with an audience like that. So oftentimes I'm asked to come out to speak, to moderate, to whatever, take up space. And it's the least I can do because you guys really are the boots on the ground. And this is one of those, it's exciting to have an audience that's not just calling to win Justin Bieber tickets. Or, did I win the tickets for the show? Am I caller 13? How many people heard Scott Perry today? Oh, thank you, okay. Wow, that's interesting. Huh? Yeah, he's coming in. He's coming in next week, so we're gonna have more time to pick his brain.
Is it rotten logs?
What's it, what? Oh, moldy logs, yes. He said moldy logs could, I don't know. The whole Paul Ryan thing has me confused. The Boehner thing has me confused. There are days that politics have me confused. But what I like about doing the show, and people have been so gracious to me, not only in the audience, but management has never one time in over 2 years come down the hall and said, you can't say that, or you can't do this. And in this day and age, That is an incredible amount of freedom. And it's incredible. There are days I think they will come down. There are nights when the next day I come into work, they say we need to see you a minute. And I think, oh man, I should have never done that Caitlyn Jenner thing. Why do I keep talking about the transgender physician general of Pennsylvania? And they go, oh yeah, we just want to let you know your new phone book's here. Wow, they're not even listening. This is incredible. The management is so out of touch, it's great. So the rules are pretty simple. We've collected all these cards for the questions. We're going to start with uncontested candidates. And you know the rules. If you guys want to, or women, if you want to argue with yourself, you have to do that on your own time. Sometimes it's the uncontested candidates like to debate themselves, you know. And that's, I don't know if we have time for that. So the uncontested county races are going to be first. What I'll do is I'll ask each person to come up. They'll give a statement with that microphone, which I think is on, right? Okay. That's the magic microphone right there. And then I'll ask each one of them an individual question in the audience that's been put in order by Laszlo. You know, is there a wizard named Laszlo? I was just going to say, isn't there something or someone named Laszlo in The Hobbit or something? Some type of wizardry? I just want to start calling you Laszlo the Wizard for some reason. I don't know why, but... So the wizard has put together these questions. He's put them in order. So do you have any questions about the rules? There's a timer back there. He also has a video camera. And how many people know in this day and age that if you do anything up here, and if it's really wacky or entertaining, it's going to be on YouTube, and I'm going to call attention to it. So that's the other reason we have this. So if you go toward the wizard, or you make an off-color remark, it's on video. All right, so let's get our first, I almost said contestants, but let's get our uncontested candidates up here first. For Cumberland County District Attorney, Cumberland County Treasurer, Cumberland County Judge, Cumberland County Judge Candidate. So all our uncontested candidates, if you can just come on up here and have a seat, and then we'll let you introduce yourself to everybody. You may know some of the people here. Nice to see some of you again. They're like, oh God, I can't believe they brought that Matthews guy back. Oh my God. We have just David Freed. Right here. Okay. And we have John Gross, Judge Skip Ebert, and Jessica Brubaker. And if you'd like to start, sir, with a, what is it, a 1-minute opening? 2-minute opening statement. Floor is yours.
Sure, thanks, Ken. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Nice to see everyone. I argue with myself all the time, Ken. I have a 14-year-old at home as well, and it's just like arguing with
Boy or girl?
a boy. Yeah. And it's comforting to have a video camera that reminds me when I ran for Attorney General, and every time I walked out of the house, there was a 20-year-old with a camera in my face following me around. I am the District Attorney of Cumberland County. I've been the District Attorney since 2006 when I took over for Judge Ebert when he was elected to the bench. We do about 4,000 cases a year. Our caseload has grown by 50% since the very beginning of Judge Ebert's term as DA. I have 9 full-time assistants. We handle cases as per our mission statement in a fair, effective, and efficient manner. I've been the leader of the Pennsylvania District Attorneys Association. I'm the past president of that organization and also our communications chair. By virtue of my interest and also my location close to the Capitol in Harrisburg, I end up spending a lot of time in the Capitol on matters of legislative interest to my association. I had the pleasure when I was running for Attorney General of traveling all over the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and meeting with groups just like this, in places just like this. And I can tell you, that's a hell of a lot more pleasant than going to some big office building in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh and begging somebody for money. So it's nice to actually be here with the people who do the grassroots work and who get out there and vote. Thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you.
We doing questions or?
No, we're just gonna do a 2-minute intro for everybody, and then we'll do 1 round of questions.
I am John Gross, I am the county treasurer. I've been the county treasurer and first elected in 1989, so I'm kind of the old man of the group here, so to speak, or the old person of the group. I just grew up a few blocks away from here, from the firehouse, but now reside since 1992 with my wife, and now I have 2 adult children, daughters that do not live at home, but they are grown. I'm a graduate of Carlisle High School, Messiah College, where I have a degree in political science and history. I've taught school, I worked in the private sector for insurance, and I've been the county treasurer, as I said, for some time. I've been actively involved in the community. I'm past president of the Cumberland County Unit of the American Cancer Society. I've been a trustee, served as the finance chairman and treasurer of the Church God Home, which is only a couple of blocks away from here. I've been treasurer for the County Treasurers Association for about 18 years. At the end of last year, I had served as president of the County Treasurers Association, where I've been involved in legislative initiatives in regard to the county treasurer's office. County treasurers are the accounts receivable. It sounds really exciting. The accounts receivable office for the county. We oversee about 32 different accounts. We invest county funds along with the commissioners. I serve also on the county's retirement board. We also collect the county's hotel tax, but most of you are probably familiar because of our licensing. County licenses, dog license, fishing license, hunting license, dog license, but if you're involved in nonprofit groups, the small game to chance and the big dog license.
Thank you. It always starts out cordial. It always starts out friendly. Wait till the lights go out. That's when you see the true people.
Good evening. My name is Skip Ebert. I want to thank the project for having us here this evening. This year I'm finishing up, I believe, in excess of 40 years of public service. I was a graduate of the Citadel. I was commissioned into the United States Army and eventually promoted to captain. Served over 5 years in Europe at various stations in both Germany and Italy. I was with the Air Guard Battalion Combat Team, 5th and 9th in Italy as the intelligence officer, and then moved back into Frankfurt, where I was a special agent for the United States Army Intelligence Agency. I left the service to come here to Carlisle to go to law school. I picked this law school because it was the only one that wasn't in a big city in Pennsylvania. I came here in 1977 and I haven't left since then. Started as a public defender 1 year, spent a year in private practice, and then I became an assistant DA for Rich Lewis in Harrisburg. When Mike Aiken got elected, he brought me back here in Cumberland County, and I served as first assistant district attorney here until I was asked to come to the Attorney General's office, where I served as chief of prosecutions and the director of the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and then was eventually promoted to executive deputy for the entire criminal law division. In 1995, I ran for district attorney, and I served 10 years in that position, and in 2005 I ran for judge, and I've been here now 10 years doing that. Active in the community. I've been president of the Boy Scout Council here. I'm an Eagle Scout. Silver Beaver Award means a lot to me. I saw your 12 values, and it looks a lot like the Scout Law. So what I bring to this is experience. 10 years, I probably tried more cases than most people, and so that experience is what counts in being a judge. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jessica Brubaker, and I have 3 teenagers at home, 2 of them boys, so I can definitely feel Ken's pain with the food bill. One of them 6'2". I am currently Carlisle Borough's magisterial district judge. I've been doing that since 2005, and I guess you now call me judge-elect for the Cumberland County Court of Common Pleas. I was here in May and talked to you guys. I'll give you 30 seconds of my history, but I don't think you really care to hear much from me. You're waiting to hear from these guys. So, born and raised around here, went to Boiling Springs High School, Shippensburg University, Dickinson School of Law. Graduated there, became a public defender, did that for 5 years, got elected magisterial district judge in 2005, been doing that ever since, as well as practicing law on the side. My husband's a Carlisle police sergeant, and the Carlisle police are on their way in uniform, because I need to sign a search warrant. They just texted me, so when they arrive, nobody panic.
That is so
They're here for
exciting.
me, not any of you.
That is awesome.
So that's basically all I have. Thank you.
You should, you know what, you shouldn't have warned us. And you would have been the only one in on the joke. Everybody would have wondered what candidate is being arrested tonight.
Certain officers could be good at that, but this guy's pretty new, so I think we would have scared him more than him scared you.
Well, thank you for your opening statements. If you can pass the microphone back down to Mr. Freed. And the first question is for you from the audience.
Okay.
With the recent announcement of early prisoner releases nationally, what is the expectation of increase in crime and recidivism and its impact in Cumberland County?
You know, Ken, the real test when the police show up is to see who stands up and turns around with his hands behind his back.
That's true.
And
Make sure you show them your hands.
It's a very good question, and I have to say, this was not planned, but I actually brought with me a piece that I wrote in 2006 that appeared in what was then known as the Patriot News. The purpose of the piece was to discuss and to point out that we need to have a discussion about who's really in jail. Before you listen to the conventional wisdom that the jails are filled with nonviolent offenders, I ask people to consider all the things that we do, and by we I mean the judges, the magisterial district judges, police, prosecutors, to keep people out of jail. You get a lot of chances before you go in. Now, we're 10 years down the road, almost, and there's a lot of talk, and there's a lot of combination of people on the right and the left getting together and talking about criminal justice reform. And a lot of that is very necessary. But it's very disappointing, and I thought it was great when the president went and visited the prison, went and visited federal prison, just as it was when the Pope did. You know, but I always tell people, well, that Pope's really liberal. I said, it's his job to be the conscience of the world. Come on. But I was disappointed when the president and some of the candidates in the debates have said, well, you know, we have to stop locking people up for smoking and joining. Nobody gets locked up for smoking and joining. It just doesn't happen. And it does a disservice to the actual discussion that we need to have. The fact is our prisons are full, but they're not full of nonviolent offenders. The people that are in there for various reasons have committed violent offenses. Now let's have a discussion about who's in there and why and what we can do to make sure that they don't come back. The answer will never be to open up the doors. So the answer to the question is, if it's thoughtful and it's done in the right way and we do it by getting people out through secure community correction centers, we're integrating them back into the community, making sure that treatment is part of it, if we and job opportunities and training. If we do that correctly, we shouldn't really worry that recidivism and violent crime will go back up. But if it's done incorrectly, as it's been done some places, and the doors to the prisons are just thrown open, we will be right back where we were. Think back to the early 80s and the mid 80s, we'll be right back where we were with violent crime. So I know that this group in here is a thoughtful and appropriately skeptical group. Keep that skepticism when you're reading the conventional wisdom, and make sure that you demand actual answers and you demand a reasonable debate before these decisions are made. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Gross. You are responsible for investing county operational funds. Can you elaborate on the aggregate total of these funds and how they are invested, what risk exists that could jeopardize returns, or the principal on the funds that could necessitate additional tax assessments?
Well, number one, for some time, I cannot give you right now, in the general fund, which is the operational fund of the county, we have about $14 million invested at various financial institutions across the county. Myself, the controller, and the commissioners set on a committee. We do not take any risk with your money, and by state law, all our funds have to be collateralized at 102%, which is above the principal amount. We have been collateralizing those funds at 110 to 115% through different state laws or letters of credit, or we have those funds collateralized in the county's name, depending if it's a new financial institution that we're dealing with. The funds are set aside in the county's name, and those funds that we invest in the securities that are set aside are government-related funds that we have. We don't allow securities in stocks or commercial paper and that sort of thing. It all is in government-backed securities that we collateralize those funds with. And as I said, right now, at the end of the year, some of the surplus monies are being used, especially now with the state budget. A lot of those surplus funds are being used up by the county just to meet expenses of our bi-weekly expenses and payroll as well.
No applause there, I noticed. Nothing against you. Are you taking private planes as well, or?
I gladly would, but I don't think the security can change the.
All right, Judge Ebert. Do you recognize, according to the PA Constitution, the county sheriff is the highest elected official empowered to uphold and protect individual liberties and rights of citizens in Cumberland County? That's the kind of question I like right there. The question, or do you want the address of the person who wrote it?
I do.
Yes. Do you recognize the county sheriff as the highest elected official empowered to uphold and protect individual liberties and rights of citizens in Cumberland County? Yes or no, and why?
No offense against the sheriff, but that's really not correct. The Commonwealth's Attorneys Act specifically states that the chief law enforcement officer of any county is the district attorney. But equally important, there's no one individual that is responsible for the safety and welfare of all of us. It has to be a team effort between the courts, the elected officials, the commissioners, and giving us the amount of money that's necessary, and the law enforcement officials. So to say that, well, it's only the sheriff is the person that is responsible for that particular aspect, that's simply not correct. We've got to work as a team, and it's a responsibility of everybody, and it really comes down to you, the citizens. What kind of government are you going to support? What are you going to make the demands with regard to, this is how safe we want to be, and that's the simple answer.
Now, what I normally do, if it's a really cool question, I take credit for it. And if it's not, kind of, I go, oh, who said that? So this looks pretty cool. This is for you. In the recent past, we've seen cases of alleged judicial activism and Attorney General non-defense of existing law, both in favor of advancing an alleged political agenda. What assurance, if any, can you give that should you be elected to a new term, that the basis of any ruling will be rooted in law and the state constitution?
Okay. Well, the best assurance I can give is that I've been doing it for 10 years, and that's what I use as the basis for all my decisions, is the law. I mean, as judges sitting on the bench, that's all we have, is the law. It doesn't, that's what you look to, that's what you turn to. That's why there is case law, that's why there is the Constitution, that's why all is there. The lawyers are there to present their cases and argue the law their way, but it's our job to interpret the facts and decide it on the basis of what the law is.
Very nice. I think that wraps up round one, doesn't it, Wizard? Well, thank you very much, lady and gentlemen. I was kind of hoping they'd get here with the warrant or whatever. Okay. Are they going to be like Code 3 with lights and stuff? Thank you, gentlemen. How'd you hurt your foot?
Acting like I'm a teenager.
Okay. I thought you were going to say kicking the bad guy's ass.
That's one of my stories.
All right, our next round of candidates, probably a little friskier. Because there's some challenges involved. So when I call your name, if you can come to the stage, we're going to set up the same way. It'll be a 2-minute opening statement for each 3-minute openings. Wow! What is this, on ESPN? 3-minute opening statement for each candidate, and then we'll go back and forth. And also, I know everybody's done a great job with the time so far, but our timekeeper back there, he has cards, so if you're ever unsure where you are, he gives you warnings. And he has a bell. How did you get a bell? Because I got a babe. Hit your bell again. Nice. I also have this, and this is, I didn't need this here, but I always take it wherever I go. I told my son, don't expect people to applaud you. Be prepared to applaud yourself. All right, Vince DiFilippo. Did I say that right? Thank you. Come on up. Gary Eichelberger, come on up. James Hertzler, sorry. Joshua Monaghan. Jim. Richard Raveno. Welcome. And here's the microphone. Is your name right, sir? I think you've been in another one of these before. Several of you look familiar to me.
You were here last night.
Good to see you. And how refreshing, none of us are in jail. All right, are we set for openings on this? All good for openings? You can do your opening, and we'll just work it back, and then we'll start our questions. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Rick Ravino. I want to share with you I'm a socialist. I oppose performance-based pay. Let me think, what else? I promote unionization of the entire county workforce. And what else, Gary? Okay, all right. Gary has shared those thoughts with you, so I'd like to address those thoughts, and if any of you have questions too, I'm looking forward to that. When I was 11 years old, I started doing odd jobs. I did that until 14. At age 15, I took a job with Crimson Oaks Landscape Nursery, working 40 to 60 hours a week over the summer. Saved a few $1,000s, started a business. Worked out of my parents' garage first, and one thing led to another, and with some good advice from people and some great staff, we've built that business into a multi-million-dollar enterprise now. 3 different times during my tenure as a self-employed individual, which has been the last 40 years, unions have approached my staff and inquired as to organizing. Each time, my staff, and I think this is the best way to handle things, has replied to them, the boss takes care of us. You know, we don't need it. I support people's right to organize if that's what they want to do, but the better thing is to lead them well. I've been meeting the private sector payroll for 40 years. That's 1,040 or thereabouts private sector payrolls. So Gary, honestly, I think it's interesting that someone who's never met a private sector payroll is calling someone who's done it 1,000 times a socialist. So those are trying to answer some, and I'm sure we're going to have a little more interchange up here, but I'd like to tell you really what my agenda is. I love to hike and hunt and camp and trek and climb. Done so all over the world. One of my favorite local hikes is Flat Rock. I don't know if any of you know where it is. You know where it is. I love to sit there and just look down over this beautiful valley. I'd like to make sure. I was a Cub Scout, a Boy Scout, an Explorer Scout, a Boy Scout troop leader, an Explorer Post Advisor. I'd love to make sure 1,000 years from now, folks have that same opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Josh Monaghan. I'm a Hampton Township native. Lived there my whole life. And seen a lot of changes in this valley. But a little bit about some of the first things I experienced was, the high school that I formerly went to school in is no longer the same high school. It's still in the same location, but it's completely updated, which was a big burden for the taxpayer. It's the benefit of the education any better, and I think that it's just that we get such a good education around here because of our people. We have very concerned citizenry, and the people around here have good hearts, and they're concerned about our children, just generation to generation. But from there, I went to school, aviation school in Pittsburgh, and fixed airplanes for a whole period of time. Understood the responsibility associated with fixing airplanes, and made a decision to just be an independent business owner, which is what I've currently done for since 1996. I've been a landscaper, cut a lot of grass. I'm familiar with the businesses that have lawns, sizable pieces of property, and the dynamics and the things that they've faced because of our economic situation in this area. So another thing that my primary concern, I'm going to address it right now, before we start along this debate, so I don't want to miss my opportunity. But Marion Carey, she was identified as a woman shot by the police near the Capitol in Washington, D.C. That was in 2013. Ohio cop, just recently, was charged, or Ohio cop indicted on murder charges in a traffic shooting. Okay, on July 19th, he shot Samuel DeBose. Okay. And recently also, a Humboldt police officer shot David Kasich. And that was, the circumstances around that is he was shot in his back, unarmed in his backyard, while being tased. Okay? In Gettysburg, recently, just over this weekend, a police officer had a body camera on him, and the footage that he had on his body camera led to an acquittal. That individual was tased multiple times while sitting in his vehicle. I feel as Cumberland County Commission, my number one point at today's economic standpoint would make sure that all of our officers are equipped with body cameras. It would be the number one thing, that would be my pet peeve, to make sure that would occur in Cumberland County, because we see these type of things occurring all over the nation happening. We don't be caught with our pants down. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jim Hertzler, and it has really been my honor to serve as your county commissioner for the past 3 years and 10 months, and have given the opportunity of a second term. I look forward to continuing to earn your trust and support. My career, I started out in Radio Ken, just so you know, and actually started working at WGAL AM and FM in Lancaster, making $1.40 an hour, which I don't know, with inflation and everything, would probably be about $5 today.
Right, it's 38 cents more than I make.
But in any event, and I became the news director of a radio station in Allentown, WAB, and a gentleman by the name of Henry Messinger, who was the state Senate Majority Leader at the time, asked me if I wanted to come up to Harrisburg to work for the state Senate. And I came up to Harrisburg and initially started in a position that where I would record news sound bites of senators talking about legislative issues to feed back to the radio stations around the state. I held a number of positions, legislative and public information positions, over a course of 33 years. And at the same time, I gave back to my local hometown community. I lived ever since I moved up here in 1978. First in service on the school board, and then as a township commissioner for 22 years. When I left the Senate, I ran for county commissioner 4 years ago. But I want to tell you a little story about 32 years ago. 32 years ago, when I was fortunate to win both the Republican and Democratic nominations in the primary for school director, and I ended up in the fall winning the top vote. And I was so honored by that. And part of that campaign had to do with the fact that our school board workshop sessions were at the time closed to the public. Like a lot of school boards around Pennsylvania, essentially the workshop sessions were where the school board members discussed the people's business, and they actually decided people's business, and then they would come out into regular public session and rubber stamp what they had already decided. Well, 32 years ago, after I got elected, one of the incumbent school board members said to me, it'd be interesting to see in a couple of years whether you still believe that the workshop sessions of the board should be open to the public. And I can tell you for 32 years, I have not wavered, because this is the people's government. You have every right to know about the workings of the people's government. And I am a firm believer in open government and will continue to operate that way for as long as I am entrusted by the people to serve. Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Garrett Eichelberg. I'm one of your current commissioners. If you don't mind, I'm going to have a couple of notes, and the reason is not that I don't know who I am, because I do, and but it's because 3 minutes for me sometimes is a real challenge. I want to stay focused here. First, I want to congratulate the 912 Project, and I want to thank them for providing this opportunity. I want to congratulate you on the successful Patriot Camp that was held this summer. My privilege to be at the opening of that and have the opportunity to help kick that off. And that's a great project. I wish we had that when I was a little one. So important these days that we have opportunity to teach our children about the founding of the country and the things that the country was founded upon and what makes us different than other countries. So keep up the good work on that. As I said, my name is Garrett Eichelberger. Every time I tell people my name, they ask me, are you related to the well driller, to the construction contractor, to the landscaper, to the sprint car driver? And the answer is yes to all the above. So, and then some. So there's a lot of us around here. We've been here since the early 1700s. We were one of the original founding families of York County. And now there's so many of us that we ended up spilling over to Cumberland County. So I'm here, I'm a Cumberland County native, and I'm glad to have made my life here in Cumberland County. I am one of your county commissioners. I've been here, I'm finishing up my third term. I'm a Cumberland County native, and I'm a conservative. By that means I believe in the Constitution, and I believe in its definition of limited government, and that, in this case, makes me a Republican. And I have to say, I'm not sure if I'm more concerned about the Democrat Party in this country because they have de facto become the socialist country, or if it's because they don't realize it. So, with that, I think we're going to have a lively discussion tonight on the future of county government and the future of Cumberland County, and I'm looking forward to that. One of the things I just want to reiterate is the job of county commissioner. A lot of people ask us what that job is. I'll put it in a nutshell for you. We're the board of directors of your county government. Your county government is made up of 1,100 employees now, 46 departments, 53 business units, 3 public sector unions, and that's big business in this county. So we have a heavy responsibility to manage that well, to be a board of directors that's engaged in the things that boards of directors should be. We should be looking at the long term and looking at the big picture. And the extent to which we get involved in little tiny projects and doing people's jobs for them, we do a great disservice to the people of this county. So my goal has always been to make sure we're focused on the things that the Board of Commissioners needs to be. We have a lot of challenges in this county. Many of them are growth related. This county's changed a great deal since the 54 years ago that I was born here. And we want to make sure that the changes that are coming are changes we can accommodate and that don't rob our county of the great quality of life that we have here. And that's some of the issues we're going to be talking about tonight, the vision that each of us as individuals and candidates have for the future of this county. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Vince DiFilippo. I'm a Republican candidate for County Commissioner. I want to thank everybody who's put this together tonight. These types of events are very important, not only for us, but for you folks as well, to get to know your candidates. I want to take a quick second here to pay my respects to our current Board of Commissioners who are here with us tonight, Mr. Eichelberger, Mr. Hertzler, and Mr. Rubino, former Commissioner. I just want to say thank you for the time that you have put in, because it is not an easy job being a public official. Let me first start again by saying that I'm a resident of Cumberland County since 1988. I'm originally from Chester County, southern Chester County. My parents and grandparents were farmers. I moved here in 1985, and I took a job with, which was then Pennsylvania Blue Shield, which is now Highmark Incorporated. I'm married to my best friend Elizabeth. We have a daughter Rebecca and 3 dogs. In my spare time, I enjoy golf, fishing, farming, family time, being outdoors, listening to bluegrass music, and hanging out with these guys from last week. For fun. I possess a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration. I'm a lifelong Republican. I live in Silver Spring Township and have been one of 5 current township supervisors. And I've served in that capacity since 2006. I'm also a member of the Cumberland County Ag Preservation Board since 2007, and I'm the current chairman of that board. In the private sector, I've enjoyed a very successful career with Highmark. During those 30 years, I've led projects, managed departments, been responsible for budgets, and have dealt with a lot of our clients on a face-to-face basis. In the public sector, I've served as a supervisor for 10 years at Silver Spring Township. I ran for office because I felt I could do a better job. Since then, I have been a part of a great group of supervisors, and I think we've made a positive difference in Silver Spring Township. Some of the things I've accomplished, I've been an integral part of reestablishing our Business Advisory Council. I've been a part of changing our land use ordinances to promote smart growth while preserving an open space. I've also been a leader in the township's voluntary land preservation program, which was approved by the citizens of our township, and it's the first one of its kind in central PA. I've also been responsible for starting a group which eventually ended up constructing a Veterans Memorial to honor all of our veterans, and that is located in Silver Spring Township. Why am I running for county commissioner? Very simply, I enjoy public service, and I get things done. My father is one of the smartest people I've ever known. Was a diehard Republican and served as a committee person and taught me a lot about the political process. I feel that with my public sector background and my private sector background, I bring a strong background to county government and a fresh set of eyes to county government. So I appreciate the time being here, and I appreciate your support, and vote on November 3rd.
Thank you, gentlemen. And again, I want to thank everybody who's here, because this is a big thing. I always go back to the station energized at so many people that come out and how many great candidates we have at such a local level. And the more I do locally in central Pennsylvania, the more I realize, because I've done stuff in Washington, D.C., I just don't understand what happens in Washington, D.C. The lack of brain power and lack of common sense. And then you hear commissioners or local representatives speak, and you're like, yeah, why is it so hard that when you go 3 hours south, all hell breaks loose? I just can't figure that out. It's an amazing thing. Anyway, all right, you still have the microphone, so we'll start with you.
Go to it.
Okay, ready? In regards to the current state budget impasse between the Democrat governor and the Republican-controlled legislature, and considering the impact it's having on the county in trying to pay human service providers, if elected, what message will you send to the governor pertaining to the state budget?
Very good question.
It is a great question. I wish I came up with it.
Yeah, folks, like you, we're concerned about what's going on in Harrisburg. What I would do if elected, one of the things that I think I'm good at is communications. I'm very persistent, and I have a lot of energy. I would get on the board as soon as I could with our state reps and pretty much say, hey, let's work together, okay? Because you're not only hurting people at the state level, you're going to start affecting us at the county level. I think the county has already put on a job freeze because of this ridiculous impasse. But I would think the best thing to do is to address this issue with our state reps and our governor head on and be relentless about it. You folks, elect people to represent yourself, okay? But you think you're getting a good job at that level? The federal level, I can tell you at the county level, you will get good representation from me.
Thank you. Mr. Eichelberger, I will be playing the role of Megyn Kelly now. Sir, you have been perceived as a bully by many. Given that reputation, how do you think you can work with the new commissioners?
Well, it takes, there are many fathers of animosity, especially when it comes to our board. And I will say this, I'm not one of them. I am strong-willed, I believe what I believe, and I believe the people of the county have elected me to fight for them. We often see politicians say, I'm going to Washington to fight for you, I'm going to Harrisburg to fight for you. And what happens? We're still looking for the results. So I feel that there have been times when I've had to take the board to task because the promise and the reality have been pretty detached. And I think the results have shown themselves in recent years with the county's financial situation, which is getting better now. So I believe the new board is an opportunity to reset, just as every new board is. I know that I'm open to working with folks. The idea that I can't compromise is absolutely wrong. The fact of the matter is that we've arrived at a number of budgets over recent years, troubled years, and they've involved some tax increases. And I've taken some flack from my conservative friends for voting for some tax increases. The fact of the matter is, had I not been willing to compromise on those things, those tax increases would have been a lot higher, as in double higher. But I sat at the table and I knew I could score a lot of political points and walk away, and you'd be paying a lot more taxes than you are. But we stayed there, we worked through a number, we got to a number, we got to something of a plan, And as a result, you're better served for that. So anybody who thinks that there's no compromise going on, they're just wrong. They're giving you a lie that's not true. So I will fight for you when I feel that that's necessary. I'm confident the next board, we're going to see some changes. And I think the stage is set for some real improvement. I know Vince and I have been talking pretty closely. I know I can work with Vince. If these gentlemen choose to, either of these gentlemen want to work with me, they will find a willing listener.
Mr. Herzler, I saw you shaking your head, so I want to give you the option to either rebut or take a fresh question.
Well, I think, you deserve the truth, you deserve the facts. And, a lot of what I've heard from my colleague, unfortunately, stretches the truth and or exaggerates or misrepresents. And all I'm saying is, my position is that I think, we see what's going on in Washington, we see what's going on in state government. The fact is that, we got to put our heads together, we got to work together to get things done. And you can't get something done, all right, when essentially the facts are being misrepresented. It's very difficult. We have a situation here in Cumberland County, and I just want to talk, I'm for fiscal responsibility. That means keeping your county property taxes as low as possible, but also delivering the services that every citizen in this room deserves and expects in the most cost-efficient manner possible. I'm not a tax and spend living. I'm definitely not. Look at my record in Spencer Township. Charlie Hall back there will tell you, okay? The fact of the matter is that, we have a job to do. We, need to do it the best way we can. And I think people are tired overall of the politics that divides us. So, if given the opportunity of a second term, I can work with any of these gentlemen. But when the truth is not being told, I intend to stand up and talk about that. I think because you deserve to know the facts. You deserve to know the workings of your government.
And we have other questions we're going to circle around, and I want to reiterate that all these are from people that took time to present these questions, prepare them, and then they were sorted out by the wizard and presented to me. So we will circle back around. How do you pronounce your last name, Joshua?
Monaghan.
Monaghan. I apologize. I said Monaghan the first time. Sorry. Monaghan.
Thank you.
Will you pledge no tax increase on first budget? That is your question.
Standards. I think tax increases are something that's the last resort type of thing that you have to do. There's ways to look at the overall picture of what the county's supposed to, the services the county's supposed to provide, and figure out if what we're actually paying is equal to what the private sector is generating revenue. So the private sector the government sector shouldn't be paying more money, as time goes on, if the private sector isn't under a growth phase as well. So I think the government sector should be under the same type of stringency as the private sector. Now, in order to do that in Cumberland County, we're going to have to, like Jim said, work together, but we're going to have to work together on understanding that there's going to be certain sacrifices that are going to have to be put in place, and we're going to have a long-term projection where we're going to be having property ownership maintainable in this county for long-term residents. Foreclosure rates in the county and the vacant homes and the vacant real estate in the county is probably, just by eyesight, more than it's ever been in my life. And I'd like to see those properties filled, and I'd like to see tax revenue coming from those places. And if all those things were simultaneously achieved, we wouldn't be in such a dire situation. But we are put in that dire situation because of what is going on in Washington, D.C., and the challenges that we're faced and the means that we're given to deal with and pay for all the services that we need. So we have to take that into consideration and make sure that we're prepared to, address it as time comes along, because it's not going to get better. We have to each year not just, be satisfied with the fact that we made good steps in the past. We got to continue to make better improvements for the future. limiting not the people, the employees, but just limiting government in general, local government in general, to where we need to, just kind of do just the minimums, and be accountable for our debts and things that we've obligated to our financiers. We're always concerned about that Standard & Poor's rating. So, what's something we have to really make consideration of what's more important long term, and the whole financial dynamic that we're under is a difficult one.
So I'm taking that as a maybe.
No, I'm not going to increase any taxes.
Okay. I never heard no yet, and finally you got to it, so. I'm a big anti-tax guy like many people are, and actually why don't we can transition right into you, sir, because I know you're a business owner and all that. I think one of the most frustrating things, regardless of your ideology, political party, is the government never seems to take responsibility for cuts. I mean, all my friends that are at small businesses, they've had to get rid of trucks, get rid of employees, they've had to make employees part-time. We see giant industry closing out, whether it's Caterpillar Tractor, whether it's Target stores, there's going to be some Targets closing, JCPenney, and I can go on. But the government just keeps getting bigger. And I ask myself, what's wrong with that picture? So can you make a commitment to no taxes? And can you find the cuts to do it, or do you just not find that acceptable? Do you think taxes are always going to have to go up?
Like everybody sitting up here, like I presume everybody out in the audience, I'm a taxpayer too. I own and operate several $1 million in real estate, so I'm probably as sensitive to property taxes as anyone. In addition, through my business, I have to pay income taxes, corporate and personal income taxes. So I'm always very sensitive to that. I'm very sensitive to that lady who lives on North Pitt Street, who's in a home and she's struggling and she's on Social Security. But taxes are necessary. If we want bridges, if we want the 911 call answered, we have to pay them. I've had to lay people off in my business. Fortunately, not too many times. Fortunately, each time I've had to lay them off, we've made some changes, and actually we've rehired all of them back. So I'm there. I know how to do that. I've been doing it for 40 years. One of my biggest frustrations is the inability of the state legislature to enact what I would call meaningful tax reform. I'm frustrated that the basis of our taxes principally for school districts, boroughs, townships, and counties principally is property taxes. Personally, I believe it ought to be income-based taxes, but to get that done, it's going to take an act of the state legislature. And I think there was an earlier question, what would you do? When I founded the I-81 Coalition, it was in response to people's concerns, and I was looking at what was the genesis of the problems. I think one of the biggest problems is gerrymandering. My wife and I have not moved from 112 Spring Farm Circle in South Middleton Township for 28 years. We are now in our third different state legislative district. I haven't moved. Well, my district keeps moving, because where did it go? It went over there. So I think one of the biggest things that CCAP, the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, can do is advocate and press our legislature for meaningful reform of the legislative redistricting process. And if we can get that done, I think a lot of these problems we're all having, when I can keep my local person and have a connection with them, and he can have a connection with me, those issues can be solved. So thank you.
If you can pass the microphone back to Mr. Filippo. DiFilippo. Why do I believe the D? No.
Ken, last year, remember you called me Mr. D.
Did I? That's right.
So it's your choice, buddy.
Let's go with Mr. D again. I like that. Okay. You know what? I'm going to stay on this theme because I know a lot of people are interested in this theme. What are your plans to rein in property taxes, both annually and the reassessment process that does not reflect market values? So what your plan to rein in the reassessment process, because you know, that's a love-hate thing.
Right.
And rein in property taxes in general.
Okay, well, property taxes, you know, most of your property taxes, folks, goes to school district. Okay, generally speaking, the least amount goes to your township or borough. The county, somewhere in between. Comparatively speaking, Cumberland County has a low property millage. It really does. How do we keep that? How do we rein that in? It's a very good question. We have to, in my opinion, continue to make Cumberland County an attractive place to live. We are the fastest growing county in the state. Why? Well, I think there's several reasons. We're strategically located. There are business opportunities here. We have good school systems. We have incredibly good farmland, open space. We have a great balance, and to me, that's attractive to people. It's also attractive, it should be attractive to businesses because of the strategic location that we're in. We are 2 hours from just about any major hub here on the East Coast. All right. We can promote more business to come here, more commercial business, and have things like our products sold elsewhere so we can get that revenue that will increase our tax revenue, which will hopefully keep the property millage down. That's one idea. As far as the assessment, the reassessment of property, that's something that needs to be done occasionally. I mean, I don't think you can say it has to be done every year, every 4 years, every 8 years. You have to keep an eye on the certain ratios, the market values, and at some point in time, assessments should be done for fairness to everyone, really. Do I support a reassessment every 2, 4, 6 years? No. I would support one when it's needed.
Thank you. Mr. E. This is another, these are all audience questions, but some of them are I can sense by the amount of pressure on the writing instrument, the passion. Well, feel free. No, you're welcome to rebut, and then we can circle back around you.
It wouldn't be a rebuttal. I think it's a very valid question for any and all.
Well, then why don't you run with it? Build on it.
There's really 2 different questions there, so it's
Okay.
kind of tough to do. You got the reassessment process, which has been a source of controversy in this county. Mr. Vino likes doing reassessments. The county previously had a 4-year policy. Every 4 years we did it because why? Because I don't know. So when my team came in place, Commissioner Barton and myself, we said, let's do it, as Vince said, when it's needed. But we put a market-driven trigger in place. We used a common level ratio, which is a fancy way of saying, what's the difference between your assessed value and your market value? And we said, when you get a 15% spread in there, then it's time to begin the process of evaluating that, yeah, we may need a reassessment. Doing it every 4 years, I think is wrong because it's based on an assumption the values always go up. Well, we got a little less a couple years ago. Some of us more than others. I saw Jeff Drains here a while ago. Sometimes your property values go down. And that's exactly the time you don't want to do a reassessment. Or if the country's dipping into a severe recession, which is exactly the situation we faced a few years ago. So I think we need to be smart about it, and reassessments have to be done. It's a fairness issue. But we're also at a very high percentage of fairness relative to all other counties. So in my opinion, the state needs to set a standard, and everybody needs to meet the standard. And we should stop worrying about whether we're 96% or 97%, and think a little bit more about the impacts that these reassessments do have on a lot of folks. It's very disruptive, it's very expensive. In the name of fairness, I'll just say in the name of fairness, we've done a lot of damage. So I think the system that was put in place before 4 years is wrong. We had a market-driven system. That was in place. And this raises one of the questions I think is important in this campaign. And I don't know where the Democrats stand on this because Mr. Rubino not only supported the 4 year, he has spoken positively about the idea of using databases to reassess your property every year. Now, Mr. Herschel, when he came in, has been very anti-reassessment, and there is no policy in place now, other than we're not gonna do one, period. And I haven't heard anything enunciated in terms of, you know, a framework for that to happen. So I guess the logical question is, you've got two folks running together on very opposite ends of this question. It's gonna impact a lot of every one of us here. So if they win, what's the policy? Which one wins? Which is it? Are we gonna do it every year, every 4 years? Are we not gonna do it at all? I personally like to have an answer to that at some point. So on the property tax issue, very quickly, there's a couple of things, see, there we go. We've tried over the last few years to do a number of things. Vince mentioned economic development. The county needs some economic development, some school districts in particular. That brings tax relief to individual property owners, to residential property owners. If you have a business, they tend to enrich your tax base. We try to encourage that. The other thing is on the expense side, and that's county expenditures. We've had a wide range of efficiency efforts, measures proposed. We've tried to implement some, haven't been able to get the support for a wide range of them. In the last 2 years, we've got a new management team that is helping us tremendously in putting some of those in place. So there's some good things on the horizon if we stick with it, if the Board of Commissioners supports them.
I'm going to let Mr. Rubino jump in for a rebuttal since he and Mr. Hertzler were in your latest answer. You mean the last debate night, like 7 months ago, or this one? Would you like to rebut what he was just saying? Sure.
Well, look, there's a lot of complicated issues that, you know, relative to property tax. I'm the chairman, was appointed the chairman of the Assessment and Taxation Committee of the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. And one of the reasons I was appointed because of my strong belief in the need for real property tax reform. The fact is, I will say that, you know, when I got elected and walked in, there were still a lot of problems with the 2010 reassessment that occurred here in Cumberland County. A lot of inequities. My neighbor across the street, who's now deceased, you know, I saw what her assessed value of her property was, and I said, Doc, why don't you come with me, we'll go up to the, I don't want to bother Jimmy, I don't know anything or whatever. Well, I took her by the arm and we went up to the assessment office for one of the informal appeals. They knocked $50,000 off of her assessed value. Now, here's the problem, all right? How many people have a neighbor that's going to take other seniors by the arm and take them up so that they can actually, you know, take care of this problem? The assessment situation, you know, the reassessment, and again, I think a lot of it had to do with the market at the time. It was very volatile when that assessment, and I'm not going to point any fingers of blame. However, I just think it was a bad time to do a reassessment here in Cumberland County. Right now, we have 103% common level ratio. There's no need to do another reassessment in Cumberland County. On the issue of property tax reform, the fact of the matter is it's going to be a tax shift, okay? Senate Bill 76, House Bill 76, I don't know whether any of you read about that, but keep this in mind when they talk about the possibility of eliminating all school property taxes. It's about a $12 billion shift. It would increase your sales tax by $5 billion, expanding the base to just about everything that currently is not taxed. It would increase your state income tax by 40%. Okay? So when you hear people talk about school property tax elimination, understand what they're really saying. And by the way, that would not eliminate municipal property taxes, it would not eliminate county property taxes. A couple of years ago, I suggested for consideration, and Commissioner Cross joined me at a news conference. We passed a resolution at the county asking our legislators to give us the option for consideration of a penny and a dollar sales tax for $1 reduction in homeowner property taxes, which is what everybody's been talking about for the past 40 years, reducing the burden on the backs of our homeowners, okay? That would have cut, if that would have been approved and we would have done that, we would have been able to reduce everybody's homeowner property taxes by $700 each. That's a big break. That's a big break. But in any event, like I said, I could talk about this probably for hours, and I also would like to respond at some point about the issue with respect to spending in the county. But
Mr. Monaghan, will you yield to Mr. Rubino here so he can rebut, and then we'll circle right back to you. We can get a new, fresh, exciting question for you, or you can stay on the same topic.
This isn't a rebuttal. I just want to say it's some additional information. How many of you know how to use a common level ratio assessment appeal? I knew Greg would. Any others? Okay.
that's the problem.
And that's the problem, folks. That's the problem. We need tax reform. I don't want to reassess, but the reality is, folks, I own several $1 million of real estate. When common level ratio falls below 85%, and Gary just said that we're going to wait till after it falls below 85% to start the reassessment process. Well, when it falls below 85%, there's a mechanism in law that allows each of you to appeal based on common level ratio. Now, you don't know how to do that, but guess what? I do. I and everybody else who owns millions of dollars of real estate. So what happens? There's a cottage industry that has grown up. I get offers in the mail. They monitor common level ratio, county to county, and they come and say, Mr. Ravino, let us appeal your assessments and we'll keep 30, 40%. You don't have anything. I didn't need to do that because I knew how to use it. So I used it. I spent $125 and I saved myself $10,000 a year. Now, when I saved myself $10,000 a year to the Carlisle School District and to the Mechanicsburg School District, those budgets of those entities didn't suddenly disappear. So incrementally, they had to bump their millage up to make up for the loss of revenue. Okay? I'm saving it, you're paying it. When I voted to reassess the county in 2008, I knew going in that $10,000 would fall back on me and come off of you. It's a complicated matter. We need tax reform. There's no perfect issue or a way to do it. We just need tax reform. So it's a complicated matter. Thank you.
I'll say, I think there is a perfect way to actually do tax reform. George Washington had it figured out. He had a thing called market exchange currency that was put in place at the very turn of our independence. And that system worked well for a period of time. And it would have continued to work, but there was greater forces at play outside of our nation that changed those mechanisms, our financial mechanisms. I feel that, the perfect excise tax is how our Constitution calls it, would be the way to go. Mr. Herzler disagrees because it wouldn't replace this, it wouldn't replace that. Certainly our local government has a large demand on how much revenues and assets we need to have in place and flow through our economy every day. The more that the flow of money goes, the more taxation will generate under a sales-based system, excise tax. That does multiple things. It takes the direct burden off the homeowner, the property owner, and it puts the burden on the consumer. Now, that consumer needs to choose to pay taxes, opposed to being forced to pay, as elderly, pay those taxes. And now it's not going to happen at the county level. We just can't sit here as commissioners and say, oh, we're going to, revamp everything that needs to be done in this country to make our financial system sound again, prosperity, in the midst. That's not going to be here today or tomorrow. But we can certainly be open-minded to the point where when that type of change does come down the road, we can embrace it and try to move towards it. And that's what I would try to do as county commissioner. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's start with Mr. D again. We have a fresh crate of questions. These are also wizard approved.
Okay,
You got me on that assessment thing. And I should know that because I have a real estate license. It is so complicated. And when you go to government to get help, that sometimes they take the time to explain it, and sometimes they just say, you know, here's this 752-page manual, if you're welcome to. It's just too complicated. It is really too complicated. And that'd be my statement, but I'm not running for anything. All right, Mr. D. Many people agree that the federal government has both positive and negative effects on local communities through a constant flow of new regulations and mandates. Some of these programs include Smart Growth by HUD, Affirmative Furthering Fair Housing, or AFA, initiated by HUD, Common Core by the Department of Education, Clean Water Act by the EPA, etc. In what way can commissioners serve to alert and inform Cumberland County residents and businesses of the new federal regulations and mandates and assist so we can comply and remain competitive in the economy?
Well, first thing, again, with just about everything is communication. I know in my township of Silver Spring, we try to keep our citizens alerted. We have actually a phone mechanism where we do that. We have a periodic newsletter to alert people as to what's going on in the township and the state and at the federal level. There's no reason why the county can't do that. There's no reason why the county can't also advise the municipalities of what's coming down the road at the federal and state level and get them to also advise their residents. That would be my immediate response.
Okay. And it's okay if you don't use all your time. Are you ready, Mr. Eichelberg?
To answer that or something that's sort of...
This is something new and exciting.
Okay.
How can a conservative vote, knowing the median wage in Cumberland County is $70,000, for the solicitor's wage to increase twice the median wage? Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I quite follow that.
Did I read that right? How can a conservative, it sounds like it's targeted at Mr. E. Okay, how can a conservative vote, knowing the median wage in Cumberland County is $70,000, for the solicitor's wage, so apparently you voted for the solicitor's wage to increase to twice the median wage.
Okay.
Did you do that?
Let me answer the question. The fact of the matter is, we live in a market economy, and that means some people make more money than other people. And our county has an enormous amount of legal exposure, We need good legal advice. And we do have to pay attorneys what attorneys are worth, or they're not going to work for us. I will say we have excellent solicitors working for the county right now. That has not always been the case for the county. Considering the growth of this county and the things that are involved, I don't think we're paying beyond the market rate for what we have. And it's a lot of money, we know that. But bear in mind that this person's responsibility is to shield us from legal liabilities that could cost us far, 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 far more. So we have to have good representation. I think we have some of the best. I honestly couldn't tell you what the solicitors' salaries are right now. We have a number of solicitors who specialize in their various areas. These people, this is a very specialized field, and folks who have good talents in that field. So I think if you just take it on in terms of not only the market value of it, but being a smart investment, we are far better off making sure that we have covered all our bases and that we're doing things by the letter of the law and in a way that protects you all, because when we get sued, that comes out of our general fund and that comes out of your taxes. So we have excellent people, we do have to pay them, or they're not going to work for us.
I don't know whose the question was, but I thought that was answered thoroughly, whether you agree with it or not. Once I figured out how to read it, sorry about that.
Ken, could I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay. The bigger picture. When I got elected 4 years ago, I came into a situation where
county had a nice surplus in terms of the fund balance, and it still does. But we were spending, the county was spending $9.8 million more than it was taking in revenues. We had a structurally unbalanced budget. And over the past 3 years and 10 months, worked with my colleagues to try to close that gap. We made some tough and in some cases some unpopular decisions. And I was frankly astounded in the middle of the summer here when my two majority colleagues voted to approve a huge pay raise of $2.3 million for a minority of our county's workforce. We have 1,200 county employees. 323 employees got an average pay raise of over $7,000 to do the same job they were doing yesterday. Now, also, 107 employees got a pay raise of over $10,000. 36 got a pay raise of over $15,000, and a fortunate 4 got a pay raise of over $20,000. Again, they do the same job they were doing yesterday, today. This was ostensibly to bring our pay up to what the market demanded. And if it would have done that, I would have supported that. But what it did was bring many of these pays way above what the market demanded. Our chief clerk, all right, I know Gary says he's done a lot of work, but for everybody else, the classification structure, all right, it doesn't matter how much work you do. This needed to be more fully vetted. And the fact of the matter is, this is a budget buster. And this next board, whoever gets elected here, is going to have to deal with it. Look, I don't begrudge anybody getting a pay raise. I want all of our employees, to be treated fairly. But this mid-year pay raise for a select few was just wrong. And you deserve, as I said early on, you deserve to know the facts. Now, Gary will talk about how you can go to the county website and get all the facts. Let me tell you something. You won't see the positions and the raises on the county website, but you will if you want to visit Hertzler-Ravino.com and learn the truth.
Mr. Eichelberger would like to rebut the rebuttal.
Yeah, that's, I can sum it up in 3 words: bunk, bunk, bunk. There's so much wrong there that it's hard to know where to begin. Mr. Hertzler talks about how only a minority of these people got it. And what he means is the unions didn't get it. That's exactly what they want. So I don't understand how you reconcile the idea that we're paying too much out for pay raises, but not enough people got it, okay? So this is what you said. There is no 2.3 million. I don't know where that number came from. I looked at every dime. I looked at every dime. Please let me, okay? What we've done is we've gone and done market study, and we did identify a number of positions that historically, these are high skill positions, high skill, not high school positions, that have been below market pay. We need to make that adjustment. We've experienced a lot of turnover. Overtime is killing us. It's one of the main things killing us, but the unions love it. The abuse of the overtime is what's killing us. So we need to make a change. I find it very interesting that despite these complaints, when I proposed the idea that those 91 people whose salary were found to be too high, overpaid, my suggestion was, I think in the name of fairness, we should reduce those. They wanted no part of that. Jim wanted no part of that. Okay, so
Approve those salary increases, those
We-
people for the past 12 years, you want to take it away from them.
we needed to do a market arrangement. There's part of a comprehensive revamping of our compensation policies and our workforce policies. We're moving toward a 21st century workforce, and that means we're going to go for a leaner workforce, a more highly skilled workforce. We have to pay certain people more. I'm troubled by some of the raises as well. But one of the things in particular, to say some of these people were doing the same job yesterday is disingenuous. We've engaged in something called gain sharing, a program I've been trying to get through the Board of Commissioners for quite some time. Our chief clerk has put it in place. What that means, it's a fancy term, basically means instead of 2 people doing the job, you got 1 person doing the job, okay? They got some extra pay, but you're not paying the salary. You're not paying the salary, the full salary of the second person. And there have been plenty of efforts to derail that effort as well. We have a number of things that are in place, but we do have to rearrange the wage scale to make it fair. We've already reduced turnover in the children and youth area, which is a very high-stress area now. We've experienced enormous cost run-ups there prior to this. We've already seen some success there. Mr. Thomas, is often singled out for the raise he got, let me explain something here. He did. He's also identified $4 million worth of savings, and that is where the money came for the first 3 years of any pay adjustments. We are within the projections, Mr. Thomas, $4 million. Mr. Hertzler talks about fixing the budget. Mr. Thomas did, not Mr. Hertzler. What your county commissioners did to close the budget gap was to raise your property taxes twice. That's what they did. Now, well, I had to compromise and agree because we need to buy time to let reform efforts take place. But there's a lot of opposition to reform. Why? Because somebody's ox is getting bored.
Mr. Monaghan. Thank you, Mr. Eichelberg. Fresh question for you, sir.
On a rebuttal
What do you think, Wizard? Rebuttal away.
Okay, we just want to quickly rebuttal some of these facts. They're saying that these pay raises went up $2.3 million. Whatever, it's the size of a sum of money. But at the same time, they say that we only had 2 tax increases. But under Act 89, we, as drivers, all pay new taxes at $5 per registration fee, or registration. So that's basically about $5 million in generation of revenues there. So good thing they did Act 89, because now we can cover those increased expenses of labor at the county, $2.3 million. And we can also put that money towards covering our interest, which is scheduled interest. And I know it's financially, somewhat advantageous for, lending grants, whatever, to people that would normally be able to access those funds. But collectively, as a taxpayer, we are still on the hook for this $2 million a year interest that we pay. So we are basically no further ahead than we were just a few short years ago. Thank you.
Mr. Arvino, if properly petitioned by the people of Cumberland County, will the county commissioners, would you support a study to have Cumberland County become a home rule county?
If properly petitioned, yes.
Mr. Monaghan, commissioners like to boast about the tax ratings and how they are among the lowest in the state. Tell us if you think county-owned roads and bridges were brought up to standards. Would that boast be the same if all the roads and bridges were brought up to standards?
Well, as far as Cumberland County's view, like people view Cumberland County and our position, financially, we look good on paper comparatively. But at the same side, just across the river, we have Harrisburg, which is one of the worst, comparatively. And all other counties are somewhere in between there. So, in essence, all counties are facing a dynamic where things are difficult and challenging. But the real thing is, repeat that question real quick.
Well, Mr. Ruvino pointed something interesting to me out, and that was, you stated there are no county-owned
The county owns bridges.
bridges,
Some bridges, but the roads are owned either by a
municipality or state. Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, as far as the bridges go, we look at we had the opportunity to pass by those bridges in the past at a better rate than what we're going to currently pay today, or we're going to pay for those bridges in the future. So they're kind of like not taking the opportunity to seize the moment when it's the fact that hindsight 2020. I'm not making any judgments because you can't really see what's going on at the time, but you can't really judge what the economy is going to be like. What you can do is make a decision at the time. But what we failed to do is actually secure and get something started that we saved taxpayers money right up front, right on the principal cost of the project. And if we continue to push this down the road, or we continue to kick the can, pass the buck, and it's going to be more and more difficult for us to facilitate the materials we need and the resources that we need to complete these projects. But they did put Act 89 in place, and PennDOT's going to take care of everything now. So I'd like to see it. Maybe it will happen, but at the same time, we've also lost the control to make sure it does happen. Thank you.
Mr. Hertzler, how will you address county employees' personal use of county computers?
Well, we have a policy, against that. Essentially, that's prohibited. There will be disciplinary I do want to address a couple of the points. First of all, we do have a number of county-owned bridges, about 28. We imposed the $5 vehicle registration fee so that we would not have to increase property taxes. We generate from that fee about $1 million a year. We have about $28 million worth of backlog of work to do. And the cost of these projects is just going up and up and up. So if we don't move aggressively, and we are now, to repair or replace our county-owned bridges, essentially it's just going to cost the taxpayers that much more. You know, relative to spending, I just want to say that you know, we have taken a number of actions over the past 3 years. One of those gain sharing, as Commissioner Eichelberger pointed out. We also eliminated, can you get back to your beginning there about government continues to grow? We eliminated a number of unfilled vacancies in Cumberland County government. We actually have, you know, fewer employees today than when I took office. Again, it's about, you know, delivering the services in the most efficient way possible. And, you know, relative to the tax situation, I'll just tell you that, you know, I thought we were heading in the right direction until we did this pay raise. Our chief clerk is the #1 top paid county administrator anywhere in central Pennsylvania. In fact, most of Pennsylvania. And this is the new minimum salary that was established by this classification, $132,000. The pay scale goes up over $200,000 for the chief clerk in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania now. That is unheard of anywhere else in Pennsylvania. You know, the largest, you know, you talk about the Philadelphia market. Again, I ask questions. What market did you compare to what market? What positions were compared to what positions where? Because if you look around our county, and I did checked a number of the positions, like positions in our surrounding counties, and by and large, most of these salaries are now way above what the market demanded. We have something called, which is demoralizing, wage compression going on in Cumberland County right now. Well, we have folks that have worked and done a great job for us for 10, 15 years, and they're making the same amount of money training new people who are walking in the door. We needed to take more time to get this right, and unfortunately my colleagues didn't do that. But we're engaged now in a defense of the indefensible.
Mr. Eichelberger?
Yeah, wage compression.
And then we'll get to Mr. Dick.
Wage compression is going on now, not because of anything of the changes that have been made. Those changes don't take effect yet. They're the result of the old failed system. That's wage compression is one of the problems we are seeking to address with the overhaul. I don't know how you can defend the old system and say we should go back to the old system. Well, if you're not willing to entertain a new system, that means you're defending the old system. I would love to see a proposal. I've been waiting 4 years for that same proposal you ran on 4 years ago about zero-based budget. So someday we'll get around to that, okay? I just want to mention one thing here. The idea that the chief clerk is paid a lot, he is paid a lot. He is responsible for a $250 million operation. As I said earlier, you've got 1,100 employees. Now let's be clear here. A number of the municipalities in this county, first-class townships, including the one this guy worked for, they pay their managers well in excess of $100,000. Many of them do. Many of them do. I don't know what he spends on place here, but Minnesota Silver Snake pay, and they're a second-class township.
102,000.
Okay.
So
These-
where,
these
if I
are
can interrupt for a
municipalities.
second, all these numbers, they certainly are intriguing. What is the best source? Where could we all go to find out these numbers that you're talking about? Like who's making what? And
Right.
the man that makes over 200 and the manager that makes
This is the key
103.
point. One of the
Okay.
things that is the centerpiece of the reform effort that we're doing, and it's going to allow us to streamline our workforce, is people are going to be paid based on their level of responsibility, not for their title, not for showing up and parking themselves in a chair for 30 years. So the idea now is pay for performance. Everybody's given a set of objectives. Now, the reason that's relevant to your question is the professional human resources firm that was brought in to do the analysis goes through a very complex system that they've explained to us. I have a fair amount of background on this, and I have to tell you, it was kind of baffling to me. But it does make a certain amount of sense to understand, and it's very scientific, a lot of management practices are. I don't want to diverge too far here, but the point is that paying people for what they contribute to The outcomes is the future. That's how you're gonna save money, not this entitlement-based system that everybody has a job for life, and they're gonna get an automatic raise every year, whether or not they did a good job, whether or not they even showed up for work. That's the system that's in place now. That's what we're seeking to change. So the idea, to get to your point of how do we know what to pay people, you can't go by titles because the jobs are different in every county. Our chief clerk currently is paid, if this goes through, he will be paid about $10,000 more than our largest municipalities. He is a county manager. He is doing the job previously that we had a chief clerk who was paid $125,000 for, and a county administrator who was paid between $80,000 and $100,000 for, and part of the job of the deputy chief clerk, which that position has been downgraded substantially.
Not by the
And that's a-
commissioners.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
So those responsibilities have been I don't know what you're referring to.
I know
But
exactly.
you have one person who now is carrying the weight of doing what we've charged him to do, and that is to get the budget of this county into a sustainable position. And he has made enormous inroads on that, despite the opposition of some people who now want to take credit for that fine work.
So a lot of us want to go home tonight and get online and see these numbers. So where do we go to see the numbers?
Whistler-Ravino.com, you can actually see the pay raises that were approved for the different positions. You will not find that on the county's website.
Now, why is it not on the county's website?
I believe it may be in the county's website, but I don't know that. So,
Okay.
but the point is, there is, the process I've explained is available on the county website. There is a description of how the process was done. There's a description of essentially the entire pay for performance concept. And I'm going to give you an address here. It's a URL of www.ccpa.net, that's Cumberland County, PA, /4248 /compensation-reform-overview.
Well, that's easy.
It's really, and it's, I've got copies, you know what, I've got copies of those fact sheets. I've got copies of the fact sheets with, if you'd like to have copies, come and see me after.
Now, there's the example of an efficient government website that's easy to remember and get to.
Actually, I'll tell you what, go to the ccpa.net and there's a search bar. Just plug in
Okay.
compensation and it'll take you there.
Because, I mean, these are a lot of interesting points, obviously, and it's frustrating. I know and I know it's like this across the board. Sometimes I'll try to get a piece of information from local law enforcement or a local jurisdiction or township, and some are very open, and then you go to some and it's all secret and cloak and dagger. So
It's
I'm
public
not
information.
familiar with your setup. Now, I know did you want to rebut, but I did promise Mr. D, what's that? Rebut and add. Okay. Let's go to Mr. D and then we'll throw it back to you.
Thanks, Ken. Before you send me a fresh question, I would like to
Sure.
comment on a couple of these juicy issues that are coming.
They are pretty juicy.
And I don't mean to be funny. They're very important.
Mhm.
First on the bridges. It's my understanding that the county does have a program that uses that $5 registration fee in addition to funds we get from the state, liquid fuels, and there's some other funds that we get as well. There are, I believe, 28 bridges, either 6 or 9 are co-owned by York County. My understanding is that plan is within 6 or 7 years, all those bridges will either be brought up to snuff or replaced. So I think in the not too distant future, we're going to be in good shape with the bridges. And keep in mind, Pennsylvania, I think, has the most obsolete bridges in the country. So Cumberland County will be doing its share. Regarding all this talk about pay adjustments, pay structures and so forth, you know, I'm not 100% privy to all the discussions, the executive sessions and so on and so forth, and I'm not going to criticize Mr. Hersler or Mr. Eichelberger because I don't know all the facts, but I'll just give you a little bit of information on my experience with these types of things. Working 30 years in Highmark, I've always been given a merit increase, a pay for performance. We don't get cost of living. In our township, we have pay scales. We have job classifications. You have a minimum, you have a maximum, you have a midpoint. Same thing with Highmark where I work. We have, you know, you're a so-and-so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a minimum, a maximum, and a midpoint. The goal is eventually to try to get people in the midpoint of that salary range, okay? I think what the county did, there were good intentions. I don't have all the details. I don't know when the last time the study was done. But in my experiences with my jobs and serving as an elected official, we look at these things every 12 to 18 months. And those scales generally are slid up slightly. The minimum goes up, the maximum goes up, the midpoint goes up. If you're down at that minimum, you will get a little bit of a bump. Not a major bump, but a small one. We will have a new board in a few weeks. And I think everyone up here is open to, okay, let's look at what happened. No, I will be. And if there's something broke there, we can fix it. I really do. Thank you for letting me make those comments.
Mr. Reno, you wanted to add to something? And then we're winding down to, do we get 2-minute closing statements this time? 3. Is it 3? Okay, so we're timing out just about perfectly here. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, Gary commented that the positions are different, and certainly I'm sure that there are situations like that. But children and youth services case managers are children and youth services case managers, whether they're in Cumberland County or whether they're in Dauphin County or Lancaster. Those are civil service positions. There are standard classifications of education that they need. There's standard classifications, as Skip could probably tell you, the duties and responsibilities of the children and youth system. There's an article I have here from WITF. Every other county in central Pennsylvania starts, depending on its size, starts a children and youth services case manager at anywhere from $28,000 to $36,000 plus benefits. Cumberland County, prior to this, was starting at $38,000, so we're already number 1. We're now starting them at $56,000. Civil service positions, same duties and responsibilities. Now, what does that practically mean? Gary talks about unionization. I've said I've dealt with unionization 3 different times in my business. We have about 500 people in organized bargaining units. If anybody here doesn't think that they have paid attention with interest, to those new pay scales, and when those collective bargaining agreements expire, that they're going to be lobbying for the same kind of increases, I think we're kidding ourselves. I'm trying to look you in the eye. I'm trying to take my candidate's hat off, put my taxpayer, citizens, and if you want me back, potentially commissioners. But I think it's a mess, and I think we really need to pay a lot of attention to it. Final thing, we're going to compare him to the private sector, and he's written a letter to the editor. Andrew Song owns a private agency called Central Pennsylvania Family Support Services. He's a private entrepreneur doing family counseling and counseling of children, okay? He's in the same labor market for employees that we are. He's starting his at $35,000. He pointed out to me, not only am I concerned about the additional taxes I pay, I'm now competing with my county government, who's paying starting employees $21,000 a year more than I can afford to pay in the private sector.
Thank you, gentlemen. Did you want to do any closing statement? All right. We'll go, if you can pass that down to Mr. D. Each of you will have 2 minutes. 2 minutes closing statement. I want to thank you for showing up and being here and just being informative and professional and answering all the questions. And go ahead, Mr. D.
All right, thank you. Thank you, folks, for coming out here tonight. We have an election coming up in a couple of weeks. First thing I want to ask you all to do is go out and vote. And go grab 5, 10 people and get them to come out and vote. Your local elections are just as important, if not more important, than what goes on at the state and the federal government. Okay. Joshua, my apologies, I really don't know you that well. But these other 3 gentlemen, I know them, I can work with them. One of the problems that they've in the past, that there's been divisiveness on the board. There has been. If I'm elected, that ends in 2016. We will work together, and I know I can work with any of these gentlemen up here, period. You are paying taxes for our salary to represent you, okay? I can promise you, I will work my butt off to represent the people of Cumberland County. Why should you vote for me? Good question. Some of you don't even know me. But I can tell you this, I have a solid background in the private sector with Highmark. I have a solid background as a successful township supervisor in Silver Spring Township. I've been around the block a few times. I've dealt with a lot of different people and a lot of issues. And like I said earlier, I enjoy public service. I'm a middle-class guy. I have a wife, a kid, 3 dogs, a mortgage, a car payment, okay? I'm not in here for any glory or any special recognition or anything like this. I truly enjoy what I do. You can ask my colleagues on the Silver Spring Board of Supervisors. I am a tireless servant for the public, and I will do that for all the good people of Cumberland County. I will bring a fresh set of eyes to the county, and I will work very hard for all of you and for any combination of these gentlemen up here. We're going to have a successful board in 2016. I thank you, and please come out and vote November the 3rd.
Thank you.
I think I did this in under 3, so I never thought I'd be running for a 4th term. I'm actually a big believer in term limits and that there should be turnover on the boards. When I came to Cumberland County, I came here with a plan. I came from the private sector, from doing work with a lot of companies and trying to reshape themselves, to be more competitive, and to exist and thrive and prosper in a new environment. It's a field called change management by some people. And this county needed that. That's why I ran. I know there's a lot of things we can do better. Performance pay is one of them. I'm not going to defend everything that's been discussed up here because I don't have to find details on it, but I know we need to move that direction. And I think some people would have you believe that they like the idea, it's just they can't find a way to really support it. So we need to make that change. We need to change the way we operate our government. We need to embrace what's called the reinventing government effort that's been going across this country for about 25 years. It's a means of essentially bringing private sector reforms into the government so that you don't have these monopolies and these obstacles to reforming your system and modernizing it. So is performance pay a good thing? I believe it's absolutely a good thing. Is this plan perfect? Don't know yet. We have a lot of questions. I think everybody's open to doing that. But the point is, I'm running again because we've finally started to make some progress on these things after years and years and years of opposition, including by the gentleman up here, to a number of the reforms that would have allowed us to avoid the last 5 years of budget chaos that this county government has. It's hard to imagine you have a county that is in such good financial shape as in place and yet has so much trouble paying its bills. But it's because some folks just aren't with the program in terms of sticking with what they tell you they are. Everybody's a fiscal conservative in the 6 months before election time. We need people who are going to manage conservatively and with the taxpayer in mind 4 years of the term.
Thank you.
Not 6 months out of the term.
Mr. Hirschler.
Well, thank you to all of you for being here this evening. An informed citizenry is critical to our representative government, and again, thank you for being here. Gary would like to put things into little classes, and I'm sorry if I got myself a little exercise tonight, but I've actually just tried to do what's right for the people of this county, and I'm trying to deal with the facts, and I think that's what you were here to hear about tonight. I used to call myself a fiscally conservative Democrat. I'd rather like to characterize myself as a fiscally responsible Democrat. And we are responsible to you. We're accountable to you. And so when I bring some of these issues up, it's because I really do believe that you have the right to know. You have the right to know, and you deserve the facts. This is election time. Up is down and down is up. We're going to hear lots of stuff. We all heard it. Try to paint me into a corner. I'm a union guy. I am for pay for performance. I'll state it here tonight. I am for pay for performance, merit-based pay. I'm not necessarily in favor of unionizing the whole county, which is, we get accused of that. But I think Commissioner Revino, or former Commissioner Revino, said it right. What do you think if our chief clerk, who just got a $25,000 raise sitting across the table from the union folks, what do you think they're going to say? You're telling me you're broke, you don't have any money? So, look, we're all in this together. I don't think party labels matter in this election. I hope they don't matter in this election, because we've got to put our heads together. The only way you get something done in government is when you work together. We need teamwork. Thank you very much.
Mr. Monaghan.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify just a few points that were made recently by Mr. Hertzler. Maybe just not up to speed with the current data. Under Act 89, it was projected by the Patriot News that $1.1 million would be generated. The facts are, from the Department of Transportation, 100,000 registrations on average per month are being charged. That equivocates closer to $6 million than $1 million. Don't let the taxpayers or U.S. taxpayers overlook the fact that there's $5 million there. That's just going to be brushed aside. Like I'm telling you, it's there to cover up the other choices that have been made recently. And outside of that, I am a Hampton Township native. I do have 4 children, and have the opportunity to go through and raise them the best I can with my limited resources. I'm not a very wealthy individual, opposed to Mr. Revino here, which is unfortunate. That's what America's all about someday, to be in his shoes. I look at prosperity as a way, the mechanism to get me there, and I'm just hoping that means is still going to be in place here for the foreseeable future. And also, I'd like to see locally for our residents and our guests here that we have a robust recreational program for our parks and our different recreational venues, because really that's one of the services that gets overlooked a lot of times, and that's probably one of the most commonly used resources that we have, is just sheer enjoyment of the area and the beauty of the place that we live, and we just keep it clean, and I think it'll be better for everybody. It will hand it a better place on to our children. Thank you for the time this evening, and thank you for putting this event together. It gives the opportunity for the voter to really understand the candidates they have to choose from. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Revino.
How many people know here where the Chosin Reservoir is? A few. On the night of the 27th of November 1950, the 1st Marine Division was moving up the West Bank and the 7th Infantry Division up the East Bank. What they didn't know is that there were 4 Chinese field armies in the mountains around them. By the time they had fought their way out of the encirclement and got back to the coast to be evacuated, of the 16,500 7th Infantry troopers, there were 490 left combat effective. Every other man had either been totally incapacitated by the cold, had been taken prisoner of war, had been wounded by enemy action, had been killed by enemy action, or had frozen to death. And the ones who survived have called themselves ever since the Chosen Few. In that iconic film by Steven Spielberg, Saving Private Ryan, right at the end, Captain John Miller is dying on the bridge. You remember what he says to Private Ryan? What did he say? 2 words. Earn this. Earn this. Well, I want to share with you, and I'm not going to give you his name because he wouldn't want me to, but one of the Chosen Few lives here in Carlisle. I've known him 45 years. He's a quiet man, never says very much. I've known him 45 years. I'm humbled to know him. I think we all should be humbled that people like that have done things for us. So I've always tried to earn it, and if you elect me to office, I'll try to respect it and earn it. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you so much. That concludes our forum for this evening, but please take time to interact and meet these gentlemen if you don't already know them. I want to thank you for having me here for the 3rd year in a row. If you listen to the show, thank you so much on WHP 580. And you people here are the reason things work in the country. So next time, bring a friend. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, Dan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your patience and attention during this forum. Election day is Tuesday, November 3rd. The polls are open at 7 a.m. To 8 p.m. and we hope you will go out and vote. I hope this forum has helped you become a more informed voter. If you could please pick up any trash that you have around and make sure it gets deposited in the receptacles. And to close this evening, Pastor Merritt will lead us in a prayer, please.
All right, thank you for being here. Thank you, candidates, for giving us your time. Let's bow our heads and ask God to bless. Father, we thank you for, again, the liberty to be together. We thank you for the freedom. We thank you, our Father, in Jesus' name, for the blessings of having candidates. Father, now we have to evaluate. We pray you give us wisdom, and we'd have wisdom when we go into the voting booth. We pray you give those that will be elected in November wisdom to carry out their responsibilities. And we recognize, according to the Word of God, that government is ordained of God, and those in government are your servants. And they need to serve according to the Word of God and follow your teaching and how they conduct themselves and make those decisions. So give them wisdom to do that. Bless each one. See them safely home. And may your blessings be on our county and on our nation in Jesus' name. Amen.